As the morning sunlight filtered through the leaves, the whispering forest awakened to birdsong, a spring melody that never seemed to end. Honey-gold light spilled across the green mossy carpet, where dewdrops still clung like tiny glass beads. The breeze passed over high branches, making them sway and murmur, as if whispering an ancient secret. In the heart of that forest, where a small stream bubbled over mossy stones, stood a little wooden house nestled beside the largest tree in the forest. Its canopy stretched wide like a giant green umbrella, shading a yard filled with white daisies. On the porch, a hammock hung between two wooden beams, still swaying gently, as if someone had just left it moments ago. Elva, the girl who lived there alone, had gone to pick wildflowers behind the house. Her tousled hair was tied with a soft grass string, and her linen shirt embroidered with maple leaves was worn at the shoulders but clean. Elva loved living among the trees. She wasn't lonely because she had Knox. Knox was a pitch-black cat with amber eyes that always gleamed, as if he knew exactly what Elva was thinking. He couldn't cook or climb trees, out of sheer laziness, but he had one important talent: guarding the house and guarding the magic. On a high shelf in the house sat a glass jar filled with the ashes of the dreaming sleep plant, a flower that bloomed only under the full moon. Knox could tap his claw on the jar's lid to awaken a small protective charm, just strong enough to keep uninvited creatures from crossing the threshold. It was a gift from the fairy Lyselle, whom Elva had met only once, long ago, in a dream, or at least she thought it was a dream. That morning, as usual, Elva carried a woven basket to the stream to gather wild greens and listen to the birds. The stream this time of year was clear as glass, reflecting little fish darting between the stones. A warbler flitted across a branch, dipping its head into the water like it was playing with its own reflection. But something was different today. As she bent down to pick a sprig of purslane by the water's edge, Elva caught a flicker of light beneath the stream, not sunlight, but a glow coming from something crystal clear, wedged between two large rocks. Elva stepped into the water. The cool stream wrapped around her ankles. She gently lifted one of the stones and there it was, a gem, like a drop of dew frozen for eternity, transparent, yet glowing from within, as if it held a sky full of stars. "So beautiful," Elva whispered. Just then, somewhere in the distance, a bird's song stopped suddenly, like someone had covered the final note of a long melody. Elva turned her head. Flocks of birds were scattering from the great tree. The air had gone strangely still. Even the wind had fallen silent. The stream still flowed, but no longer sang. Elva clutched the gem in her hand, unaware that she had just awakened something ancient, something that had slumbered deep beneath the earth for a very long time. Night fell over the forest like a velvet shawl, muffling every sound. The crescent moon hung like a silver brushstroke on the still surface of the lake. Normally, by this hour, owls would hoot and insects would begin their nightly chorus. But tonight, the forest was eerily silent. Elva sat on the wooden step of her porch, the gem glowing faintly in her palm, as if it still held the stream's warmth. Knox, the black cat, sat beside her, tail curled neatly around his paws, eyes narrowed in suspicion. "It's strange, Knox," Elva whispered. "The stream doesn't sing anymore." Knox didn't reply, but his gaze was fixed on the gem. His ears were upright, alert. Elva was about to stand when a chill breeze swept by, carrying a scent unlike any other. Not of leaves or wild herbs, it smelled like light, pollen, and the breath of morning, even though it was now midnight. In the front yard, beneath the ancient tree, a pale blue light began to shimmer, spiraling like a butterfly's wing. And then, a slender figure appeared, as if stitched from moonlight and fern leaves. It was the fairy Lyselle. No taller than Elva herself, but something about her felt ancient and kind, like the forest's own memory. Her hair reached her heels, silver as dew-strung cobwebs. Every step she took made the grass beneath her softly glow. "Elva," she spoke, her voice barely more than a breath, yet it rang in the girl's heart like the first song of a stream. "You've picked up something that was not meant to be touched." Elva held the gem to her chest. I just saw it lying there in the stream. No one told me I couldn't." "I know, and you are not to blame," Lascelles smiled sadly. "But when the heart of the forest is removed from its current, the shield that guards this forest fades. Mora the witch, banished from these woods centuries ago, has waited for just this moment." Wind hissed through the treetops. A yellowed leaf fell, out of season. "That gem is the crystallized heartbeat of the forest's first dawn, when the first bird sang its first song. It is not just magic, it is a living soul. It keeps the water clear, the grass soft, the bird song bright, and the wind fragrant." Elva looked up, heart racing. "If Mora gets her hands on it, she will drain every last breath of life from this forest. She will turn it into the stillness, a dead zone where no grass grows, no creature thrives." What should I do?" Elva asked, her voice trembling. "You must return the gem to the eye of the forest lake, the place where it was first set long ago," Lascelles said, her eyes glistening like mist. "But the path is treacherous. Mora has already sent her curse across the land. There will be illusions, false dreams, and creatures forced to serve her will." "So, I have to go alone?" Knox gave a short, decisive meow. Lascelles smiled. "No, you won't be alone. You have Knox, and the forest still holds loyal spirits, beings not yet shadowed by Mora. You will find them, or they will find you." She held out her hand. A small leaf drifted into Elva's palm. On it glowed a faint, shimmering map, marking a winding trail through 3 lands: the tangled reed fields, the hill of dead leaves, and the cavern of forgotten dreams. "Leave at first light, Elva. You must go before the forest falls completely silent. I can help you only once more when there is truly no path left. Keep your heart bright, like the gem you now carry." Then the light faded. Lascelles vanished like mist at dawn. Elva looked down at the gem again. It was warmer now, as if it, too, understood the burden she now bore. Knox licked his front paw, then leapt into Elva's lap. It was clear. The journey was beginning, and the little wooden house, once the safest place in the world, was no longer enough to shield them from the coming storm. The next morning's dawn was pale, as if even the sun was worried for the forest. Elva tied the small cloth pouch securely around her waist. Inside were the forest crystal, a few dry biscuits, the herbal leaves gifted by the forest fairy, and a roll of hemp rope. Knox, with a tiny sling bag across his neck. Inside were the jar of enchanted ash and several cat-deemed important items, turned to glance one last time at their familiar wooden cottage. The door stood slightly ajar. A gentle breeze slipped through, like the forest's final whispered blessing. The 2 friends departed, following the leaf-lit map towards the tangled reed marsh, a place where water reached their ankles, reeds grew taller than heads, and paths shifted every time the wind blew strong. The trail led Elva down a moss-covered slope and into a marshier land, where light seemed filtered by a thin mist and the smell of damp grass grew thick. The reeds here were unnaturally tall, their soft stems woven together into a swaying maze that danced with every breath of wind. "We have to get across before sunset," Elva said quietly, eyes fixed on the leaf map. Lascelles warned, "If the sun sets and we're still inside, the reeds will whisper until we forget who we are." Knox shivered, fur bristling slightly. Though not a forest expert, he knew Any place with whispers and no speakers was not a place to linger. They walked carefully. The deeper they went, the denser the reeds became. Some stalks tangled like living vines. Elva often had to use her small knife to cut a path. Suddenly, a tiny voice called out, "Oi! Watch your step! Nearly stomped on my tail!" Elva jumped. On a reed stem just ahead, a tiny red squirrel clung by its hind legs, forepaws crossed in a scolding pose. Its fur puffed from the fright, tail bushy like a fiery orange brush. "Sorry, are you a talking squirrel?" Elva stammered. "Call me Taru, honorary guide of the tangled reed marsh," the squirrel declared proudly. "And yes, I speak. Folks just don't hear me 'cause they're too busy listening to the reeds babble nonsense." "Do you know the way out of here?" Elva asked, hope flickering in her eyes. Taru leapt nimbly onto Elva's shoulder, landing as lightly as a leaf. "Of course I do. I was born here, but don't expect free help. Travelers always get lost, then blame the woods, blame the reeds, blame me." Elva bowed her head. "I'm sorry if I troubled you, but I have to bring this crystal to the forest's eye lake before the witch steals it. The forest is dying." Taru froze. His eyes widened. "The crystal. You mean the forest's heart?" Elva nodded. Taru shivered slightly. A gust of wind passed by, and the reeds around them suddenly hissed in unison, a voiceless chorus, high and suffocating. "Follow me," Taru said urgently. "We don't have much time." Taru led like the wind itself through the reeds. He knew every bend, every deep water patch, every corner where the reeds whispered lies. Elva kept close, Nox bounding silently just behind, never straying. Once, they came to a wall of reeds so thick it seemed impassable. Taru told Elva to close her eyes, take 3 steps back, then turn left at the sound of an invisible bird. It was strange, but it worked. At last, when the late sunlight hung like honey on the reed tops, they passed the final wall of stalks. Before them stood a rise of land scattered with white stones, marked on the leaf map as the mouth of the hill of dead leaves. Elva sat down, breath heavy. Her heart still pounded. "Thank you, Taru. You just saved us from being trapped forever." Taru crossed his arms, grinning. "I could go farther with you. The forest's out of balance. I can feel it. If the forest's heart disappears, so will this place." Nox eyed the red squirrel cautiously, then gave a quiet nod. A new ally, noisy perhaps, but useful. 3 small beings, the girl, the cat, and the squirrel, sat together as the sky darkened, dyed rose red like burning paper. The journey had only just begun. Elva awoke to a quiet morning mist. Fog covered the ground, curling around every blade of grass, every stone crevice on the hill of dead leaves. The patch of land where they had slept was strangely dry, as if even the mist avoided it. Taru crouched atop a flat stone, nibbling a chestnut and listening intently. Nox, curled up in Elva's cloak, kept his eyes half open, ever watchful. "We're on the western edge of the hill," Taru whispered. "There's a gate of tangled roots ahead, leading down to the forgotten dream hollow. But to reach it, we must pass through the ring of memory winds." "The ring of memory winds?" Elva repeated, voice softer than usual. She looked around. No birdsong, no insect hum, not even a leaf stirred. The hill felt like a place where time itself had halted. Taru nodded. "It's where the wind stirs old memories. Not to remind you, but to make you lost." "Sounds more like a nightmare than a breeze," Nox muttered, stretching. They pressed on, walking into the heart of the hill, where dead trees stood like silent sentries, keeping ancient secrets. Fallen leaves piled thick beneath their feet, not crisp, not rotting, but soft like breathing paper, as though each leaf held a forgotten memory. A gentle breeze stirred, the first wind since they had entered. Then a whisper drifted by. "Elva, little Elva, come back." Elva froze, It was her mother's voice. She gripped the crystal inside her pouch tightly. "It's not real," Taru said quickly. "Don't believe anything. The wind uses loved ones' voices to mislead you. We miss you so much. Come home, sweetheart. There's nothing left in the forest." The voice came from all directions. Soft like leaves, warm like sorrow. Elva shut her eyes, kept walking. Nox stayed close, gently laying his tail over her hand. A quiet message. "I'm here." After some time, Elva opened her eyes. Before them stood a towering old tree. Bark cracked, color faded, as though it had outlasted centuries. At its roots, a gateway of twisted roots curved like a ribcage partly opened. "We've arrived," Taru whispered. But just as they approached, the ground began to tremble. From behind the tree, a shadow slithered forth. Tall, gaunt, its form woven from ash and mist. "The one who bears the forest's heart shall not pass." It was the Hill Warden, a creature forged by the witch Mora to guard the way into the forgotten Dream Hollow. Elva stepped back, hands trembling. Taru leapt from her shoulder, ready to hurl himself at the foe if need be. Nox crouched, fur bristling, a storm in black fur prepared to strike. "I'm not afraid of you," Elva shouted, though her voice trembled. "The forest's heart doesn't belong to you, it belongs to this forest." The warden didn't reply. It crept closer, its every step turning leaves beneath into smoldering dust. Just then, from Nox's tiny sling bag, the jar of enchanted ash popped open. A white mist, glowing like moonlight, spiraled into the air and surged straight into the crystal in Elva's hand. The crystal blazed, and from within came a whisper. Not quite a voice, not quite human. "The forest does not forget. Let memory's light lead the way." Elva's hand grew hot. She raised the crystal. Its light expanded into a ring of memory, scenes of the forest blooming around her, birdsong mornings, spring blossoms, summer rains, laughter. The Hill Warden screamed, its body cracking like glass crushed under truth. Moments later, it dissolved into the air. The gate of roots creaked open, revealing the path into the forgotten Dream Hollow, where darkness weighed heavier than silence. Elva stood still, catching her breath. Taru whistled softly. "Didn't know you had that kind of power. Not bad." "It's not magic. It's memory," Elva said softly, still gazing at the crystal, now dimming. "The forest remembers, and it still fights." The root gate closed silently behind them. Before them stretched a winding tunnel, sloping deeper into the earth, a place where no light could reach, and silence hung thick like a blanket over all sound. No birdsong, no footsteps, only the sound of a heartbeat, slow, low, and belonging to no one in particular. Elva clutched the gemstone tightly in her hand. Nox led the way, tail swaying gently to signal that things were still safe. Taru was no longer his usual bouncy self. He hopped slowly now, eyes scanning every crack in the stone, every moss-covered wall. "This place," Taru murmured, "doesn't just make you forget the path, it makes you forget why you walk it." Elva suddenly stopped. She looked around. Where was she going? She unfolded the leaf map. It showed only twisting, nameless paths, no landmarks. The markings had faded, like wind had brushed them away. "Why am I holding this stone?" she whispered. Nox turned his head, his feline eyes glinted with worry. "Elva," Taru said quickly, "don't speak. The wind of the cavern is creeping into your memory." But it was too late. A formless wind swept past her, cold and soft, like an unreal hand. And for a brief moment, Elva saw another version of herself, a girl who never left the wooden cottage, who never faced danger, who never knew sorrow. A world without missions, without burdens, without tears. "Stay here," a voice echoed. It was her own, yet not. "No one needs you to be a hero. Just stay. The forest will take care of itself." Elva took a step back. Her grip loosened. The gemstone slipped from her hand. It didn't shatter, but its inner glow dimmed. Taru cried out, "No! Pick it up! Elva!" Nox leapt forward. seized the gemstone in his mouth, and placed it firmly back into her palm. The cat looked at her, eyes dark as midnight, piercing. "Remember, you once said, if you don't save the forest, who will?" Elva's eyes widened. A flicker of light surged through her mind like a stream awakening. "I remember now. I left the cottage because the forest called my name. I came not because I had to, not because anyone asked. I came because I loved this place." She tightened her grip on the gemstone. The light flared back, brighter, steadier. The wind of the cavern screamed, a shattering sound, and the illusions crumbled like dry sand. Before them, the air trembled. A stone gate appeared, round like a crescent moon, carved with ancient patterns, roots, birds, the sun, and a girl holding a glowing stone. Taru let out a long breath. "You've passed. The cavern of forgotten dreams always tests the heart, not the strength." Nox sat down and began grooming himself calmly as if nothing had just happened. Elva stepped toward the gate. Before touching it, she whispered, "I haven't forgotten. Mother, I still remember everything." The gate opened. As the stone gate closed behind them, Elva, Nox, and Taru stepped into the deepest place of the forest, the realm of sleeping roots. There was no sky, no ground, only a floating void, where massive tree roots hung suspended in the air, glowing softly like fireflies. Each root pulsed gently, as if in sleep, as if dreaming. At the very center was a colossal tree stump, the bare heart of the forest, wrapped tightly in black, sticky bands like poisoned sap. And before it stood the witch Mora. Mora stood still. Her hair, long enough to brush the ground, was woven with dead leaves and snake-like strands. Her eyes were two pits of gray ash, no pupils, no gaze, only emptiness. "Little Elva," Mora spoke, her voice smooth as velvet and cold as ice. "At last you've brought the gem back to me." Elva took half a step back. "Not for you." Mora smiled faintly. "You don't understand. That gem is the last remnant of the forest. It is the living memory. It holds the songs of birds, the scent of flowers, golden afternoons, and even love itself. But memory is fragile, Elva. To carry it is to ache, and I want the forest to forget." "Why?" Elva cried. "Why poison the forest?" Mora stepped forward. Each of her steps left behind a trail of dry, scorched ash. "Because I was once part of it. I was the memory keeper before you. But the forest's memories are not only joy. They carry goodbyes and fading faces and grief. You don't know what it feels like to carry centuries of remembrance until no one remembers you." Elva trembled. A part of her heart understood that loneliness, like waking up and no one calling your name, no one coming to find you. "But forgetting," she whispered, "is not how we heal. If the forest forgets everything, it will no longer be itself." The gem in Elva's hand began to glow. Its light spread outward. Touching the roots around them, the forest began to stir. Mora screamed and raised her arms. Darkness spilled from her hands like ink, rushing to smother the light. "Elva! Hold the gem to the sky!" Taru shouted. Elva yelled back, "Nox! Now!" Nox sprang from her shoulder, flipping mid-air, and hurled the final jar of enchanted ash into the wave of darkness. In that moment, Elva lifted the gem high. The light burst forth, not blinding, but aching in its warmth, like the sun on the last day of winter, like the first birdsong after a long, cold season, like a long-lost embrace. The roots awakened. From within the massive stump, hundreds of small lights streamed out. Memories, images of animals, trees, children laughing, generations of forest guardians, the smiles of those forgotten, and even a vision of Mora as a young woman, holding a spellbook, planting a tree in the rain. Mora froze. The light wrapped around her. "I used to be like that," Mora whispered. Then came the voice of the forest, old, gentle, forgiving. "Memory abandons no one. but you must learn to carry it with gratitude, not wrath. Mora sank to her knees. The poison faded from her hands. The darkness recoiled and vanished. Her hair turned white as snow. The witch was gone. Only an old woman remained, sitting quietly in the light. The gem in Elva's hand was now clear, its task complete. From the great tree, a warm glow enveloped Elva, Nox, and Taru. The roots lifted them gently from the depths. Everything began to blur, and when they opened their eyes, Elva awoke by the stream where it had all begun. Nox lay on her belly, letting out a soft meow. In the trees above, the birds sang as if they had never stopped. Taru was sprawled lazily upon a flat stone, munching on a wild berry. "The forest," Elva whispered. "Has returned," Nox replied, "and it remembers who saved it." From afar, the fairy Lyselle appeared once more, nodding gently toward Elva. She said nothing, yet the smile upon her lips stilled Elva's heart with quiet joy. When Elva returned to her wooden cottage, she found the moss gone from the roof and the great tree beside it greener than it had ever been. On the wooden table inside there lay a new book, its pages blank, its cover inscribed, "The Keeper of Memory." Elva opened to the first page, picked up her pen, and began to write.